baseball's top-ranked international prospects had his deal voided when it was revealed that he was 5 years older than he claimed to be. The NBA is talking with one of its biggest stars on how to make the All-Star game better, and later we're chatting with an NFL rookie on his transition to the NFL. It's Monday, November 4th. I'm Owen Poindexter, and this is Front Office Sports Today. In today's episode, we're speaking with my colleague Eric Fisher on the case of Cesar Altagracia and how big a deal age falsification is among MLB international prospects. Elsewhere in baseball, an ace pitcher opted out of his contract, but it has a unique clause that allows the team to opt back in. The NBA dreams of a team in Mexico City, but it's not likely to happen anytime soon, and the NHL players are starting to get serious about CTE. Later, we're chatting with the Colts' Laiatu Latu. First, here are your top headlines. Joel Embiid got into an altercation with a reporter in the locker room after the 76ers lost to the Memphis Grizzlies on Saturday. The altercation began after Philadelphia Inquirer columnist Marcus Hayes questioned Embiid about his son and his deceased brother, who both share the name Arthur. According to Shams Charania, Embiid confronted Hayes and said, "The next time you bring up my dead brother and my son again, you're going to see what I'm going to do to you, and I'm going to have to live with the consequences." The NBA is aware of the situation and commencing an investigation in the matter. The league is also reopening an investigation into the Lakers' Jackson Hayes after TMZ published security camera footage from 2021 of an altercation between him and his then-girlfriend, in which she implied that he has a history of physical abuse. Over to MLB, John Fisher and his family have pledged to contribute $1 billion towards the construction of the A's new stadium in Las Vegas, with U.S. Bank and Goldman Sachs offering a $300 million loan. Construction on the A's proposed $1.5 billion 30,000-seat stadium is expected to begin sometime in the spring and be finished ahead of the 2028 season. As much as $300 million of public funding could go into the stadium's construction after Nevada Governor Joe Lombardo signed a financing package into law in the summer of last year. Despite the funding, Fisher is still pursuing partners in the Las Vegas area to invest in the franchise, which in turn would help pay for the stadium. Elsewhere in the league, Gerrit Cole has opted out of his contract with the Yankees, but the Yankees can still keep him due to Cole having one of the most unique contracts in baseball. Opt-outs have become familiar features in baseball contracts. Blake Snell, Sean Manaea, and Ha-Seong Kim also opted out of their deals over the weekend. But Cole's deal has what his agent Scott Boras called a swell opt, which is not exactly a self-explanatory term, so here's how it works. Cole's initial deal was for $324 million over 9 years, with the option to void the last 4 years and $144 million, which Cole just did. However, the Yankees can swell the deal by adding on an additional 1 year and $36 million, so essentially they can opt back in at 5 years, $180 million. A top San Diego Padres prospect out of the Dominican Republic had his $4 million deal withdrawn after an MLB investigation uncovered that the teenager was actually 5 years older than initially believed. Cesar Altagracia, who was believed to be 14 but was actually 19, represented the Dominican Republic in the U12 Baseball World Cup in 2022 and the U15 Pan Ams this past summer. Altagracia verbally agreed to the deal with the Padres that would have become official in 2027 when the player was set to become a 16-year-old free agent. My colleague Eric Fisher has been looking into this case, Cole's opt-out, and more, and he joins us next. I am joined now from a hotel lobby by Front Office Sports newsletter writer Eric Fisher. Welcome, Eric.
Hello.
Great to have you on. So let's start with Cesar Altagracia. He was a Padres prospect. He had a verbal agreement with the Padres for $4 million once he turned 16. Turns out he was already 19. The Padres thought he was 14. What do we know about this weird situation?
Yeah, so unfortunately, age falsification, this has been a thing in youth baseball circles and early professional stage circles, as we're seeing here. This sort of thing pops up from time to time. And, Major League Baseball for a number of years has tried to get their arms around the sort of lawlessness of the Dominican youth development situation in the sport for many years. There's been some strides made, but this incident shows that there's still a ways to go here, and that you've got some powerful motives that they're fighting against. That you've got a more impoverished country where the financial incentives to sort of get into that contractual flow, bring that money in, position yourself as a can't miss prospect with all these years ahead of them. Those kind of financial motivations for some of these players and their Buscones agents they're still there. And so this is a specific incident that you're referencing here, but it kind of speaks to some larger issues in that Dominican landscape that the league is still wrestling with.
Yeah, and just to hammer this out in case anyone's confused, a team will, reach these verbal agreements with young teenagers, 14, 15-year-olds before they can sign when they're 16, or I guess in some cases earlier than that. Sometimes they're actually they look like the best 14-year-old you've ever seen because they're actually 17, 18, 19.
Yeah.
And do we have a sense? I mean, it's really hard to know how widespread this is and how often this happens. Do you have any sense of just how much of an issue this is?
I think it's a little better because, again, the league has recognized for some time that this is it's been a chaotic situation. And for, the benefit of the league's own health, the benefit of the entire Dominican development system, for the benefit of competitive balance, they needed to get their arms around this. And again, there have been a number of steps taken over the course of the last several labor deals and just in the course of ordinary league operations. So I think, broadly speaking, it's better, but again, there are some of these incidents, and I would submit still better than it's been, but more than we know.
Right, and it's one of those things where there almost have to be players that have slipped through, that were signed,
Yes.
At one age, and maybe we just never found out what their real age is. If you look on the internet, there are all kinds of conspiracy theories about many superstars who have came out of the Dominican Republic. I have no reason to believe or not believe any in particular, but it's a real live issue it's just hard to get solid facts on.
Yeah, and this sort of intertwines a little bit with some of the discussions we've had about things like international draft and having more standardization around some of these processes, and in terms of how this foreign talent comes into the game. And again, there's been some strides made, but you're still dealing with a situation where birth records and those kinds of things, particularly in these more small, remote, rural towns in the Dominican, good, valid documentation can sometimes just be really hard to come by.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like this is, we're going to be hearing more about this case in particular and this issue. Let's hop over to the New York Yankees and Gerrit Cole. So, as I explained in our headline section, Cole has opted out of his deal. The Yankees have to decide if they are keeping him for an extra 1 year, $36 million, or letting him become a free agent.
Well, basically, what's at stake is whether or not they're going to keep their ace pitcher. That yes, there have been some injuries, and there was the issue in the fifth inning in Game 5 of the World Series that we don't need to replay. But we're still talking about one of the very best pitchers in the entire league, 2023 American League Cy Young Award winner. He had 4 years and $144 million on his contract. He opted out, but that opt-out can be voided if the Yankees tack on an extra year at $36 million, as you referenced, and that would bring the overall package to $180 million over 5 years. And as we're taping this, I think the expectation is that they do it. But again, there's just been a little bit of a hedge in terms of age, injury history, that kind of thing. Do the Yankees want to take on that additional year? That's why it's been a little bit of a question mark. But again, my suspicion is, given that Gerrit Cole is still one of the very best pitchers in the league, and he's been nothing but a model citizen for the Yankees, that they'll ultimately decide to do it.
Yeah, I agree. I think there are, mini red flags here and there. The injuries, obviously, he was one of the poster people of the spin, sticky stuff. I don't even want to call it.
But even after that, he sort of picked up where he left off. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So what does this potentially mean for the Yankees' attempts to retain Juan Soto?
Oh, I think it's huge, and I think that's part of why they keep him on. That yes, that's an extra year and $36 million, as we just indicated, but it sort of demonstrates to a big-time free agent like Juan Soto that yes, the Yankees are committed. They're still all in. They still want to get back to the World Series, because the reality is getting back to the World Series in 2025 is a lot harder without Gerrit Cole. And and particularly a full season without Gerrit Cole, because he had a late start to the 2024 season. So keeping Gerrit Cole on would demonstrate to Juan Soto that yes, we are still committed to winning, and he's going to get his money wherever he goes. But that would make a big statement. And Juan Soto has said that having a viable chance to get back to the World Series and compete for a championship, like many players, is very important.
Just anything else that you're keeping an eye on as the MLB offseason really gets going in earnest?
Well, so Monday, that's going to be the big start in terms of when players can start signing with other teams. So as we get into the weekdays here, you're going to start to, we've had a few options picked up with players on their existing teams, but now you're going to really start to see some of those players changing teams and finding new deals. I don't think we're going to have Juan Soto right off the bat. That's going to be something that's going to probably take some weeks to unfold, but we're going to start to see some activity here as we get into Monday and beyond. But as we've discussed on prior podcast episodes, I think there's going to be a little bit of a exacerbated have and have not situation, if for no other reason but the regional sports network turbulence. And we're still waiting to find out what's going to happen with Diamond Sports Group and their bankruptcy. But you got a lot of middle and lower class teams in terms of their revenue, not knowing exactly what they're going to be able to spend because their RSN situation is unsettled going into 2025. So I think you're going to have, particularly at the outset here, a number of those big market teams, Yankees, Mets, Dodgers, Cubs, and the like, be able to sort of get a little bit of a head start on their offseason planning, maybe relative to some other teams in the league.
Should be very interesting. Eric Fisher, thanks so much for joining us.
Always a pleasure.
A medical test can reveal your body's biological age, which can show if you are aging prematurely. Better nutrition has been shown to reverse one's bioage. My hope of living longer and healthier is why I take Field of Greens. Field of Greens is an organic superfood fruit and vegetable drink unlike any other. It's serious nutrition. Listen to this. Field of Greens was approved for a university study that doctors believe may lower your body's biological age. That generally means better health. Each fruit and vegetable in Field of Greens was selected by doctors to support vital body functions like heart, liver, kidneys, metabolism, and immune system. Only Field of Greens is backed by this better health promise. At your next physical or checkup, your doctor will notice your improved health or your money back. Join me in better health with 15% off and free shipping. Visit fieldofgreens.com and use promo code FOS. That's promo code FOS at fieldofgreens.com. fieldofgreens.com. The NBA is trying to figure out a problem that they and most other leagues have had for years, making the players care about the All-Star game. Last season, the East beat the West 211-186, which tells you all you need to know about how much defense was played there. The bright spot was the three-point contest between Steph Curry and Sabrina Ionescu, which Steph won narrowly. The Steph-Sabrina matchup was fun, egos were on the line, and it came from the players. Also, obviously, it incorporated one of the best WNBA players. Those are the ingredients to making All-Star Weekend fun and relevant again. With the game coming to San Francisco, the league is consulting with Curry on how to bring that same energy. I don't have all the answers here, but finding more ways to incorporate female players makes a ton of sense because it helps lift up the WNBA stars and introduces a curiosity factor both for the players and the fans about how they stack up against the NBA stars. Skills competitions are great, and maybe it's time to start putting A'ja Wilson, Nafisa Collier, and Caitlin Clark in the All-Star game itself. Also in the NBA, Commissioner Adam Silver said that he would, quote, personally love to have an NBA team in Mexico City, but he also said that it was pretty unlikely that the city would leapfrog U.S. markets with ownership groups that are actively soliciting the league. I get that there are unique challenges to playing in Mexico City. Obviously, you're playing in a different country with different laws and customs and a different language. The city's elevation is 7,349 feet, which is 2,000 feet above Denver, and you need an ownership group that is up for making it happen. Those are the challenges. The potential reward, however, is adding the biggest market in North America. This is a little like if there were no teams in California, and people sometimes talked about adding a team in Los Angeles, but it all just seemed too logistically challenging. It's not a perfect comparison. For one, the LA metro area, which includes the surrounding cities, has a population close to 13 million. The Mexico City metro area is 22 million. The big established leagues are careful and methodical and risk-averse. It's often a good thing, but I think they're missing out on a huge opportunity here. Over to hockey, the NHL Players Association is forming a committee to educate players on CTE. Chronic traumatic encephalopathy, or CTE, is a condition that comes from getting repeatedly hit in the head. The especially challenging thing for people who may be at risk for CTE is that the effects can take years to really manifest, and the condition can only be diagnosed after someone has passed away, so our understanding of it has progressed much more slowly than other conditions. It has been a major issue in the NFL, of course, but it hasn't been as discussed in other major contact sports. The leagues generally have done what they can to brush the issue off, at least publicly, and even players sometimes don't want to hear about it because they don't want to threaten their own livelihood. So the big question with this new NHLPA committee is what they say and what comes next. Do the players start advocating for change? Does the league cooperate here, or do they push back? And is this something that affects a small percentage of players or a huge number of them? The NHLPA is doing the right thing here. What comes next is going to be pretty interesting. Laiatu Latu is a rookie with the Indianapolis Colts. He was part of the class of college athletes who had a year interrupted by COVID. We spoke about the transition to the NFL, his college experience, and plenty more. One thing you'll notice about him that is different from the conversations I have with veteran players is that Latu is young and wants to play as much as he can. Others with more wear and tear on their bodies talk more about maintenance and not being asked to do more than they already are. That's not the case for the 23-year-old. Here's our conversation. I'm joined now by Laiatu Latu, Indianapolis Colts defensive end. Welcome, Laiatu.
Appreciate you for having me on.
Thanks so much for coming on. So this is your first year in the league. How's it been getting adjusted to the NFL?
I mean, it's been going smooth, I can't lie, especially, having, dudes in my position room to look up to has been making it a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And is it, harder on your body to go from, comparing to playing in college?
Well, shoot, I can't tell yet, but I've been doing pretty fine, honestly. And then I've been learning from, other dudes in my room that I said I look up to. They've been giving me, recovery things to do throughout the week. So, I mean, it's been definitely helping.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What would you say is the biggest change you've felt so far between college and the NFL?
I would say the biggest change, honestly, is, understanding when, like within, my rushes, understanding, when I can take the edge and understanding when I need a, power rush at times. So to make sure that QB doesn't escape the pocket, because that's a big emphasis that we make, to not, let him escape, that pocket.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's the biggest change.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's that learning curve like to obviously you've been playing football a long time, you've been playing this position a long time.
Yeah.
But you feel like, that it's like a big mental load in your first, few weeks in the NFL to like figure out how the professional game's played?
I wouldn't say a huge mental load, but there's definitely a mental load where, I'm understanding, certain run concepts, and then in the pass game, when they're, one-on-one blocking, or when we're getting the slide, and when I can't, lose, quarterback contain. So it's a bunch of stuff that's going through my head, as opposed to college, I say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And as for the Colts themselves, it's been, I think you're right now. Um, it's been just like an up and down year. You've had,
Yeah.
some wins, some losses, plenty of learning experiences, I'm sure. It's sort of a team in transition as well. Just zooming
Yeah.
out, how's it been kind of navigating this team as it kind of figures out its identity?
I mean, I love our team. I love everybody in that building. Everybody's in there grinding, working their tails off every day. And we also, appreciate one another too, and, respect one another to, high regard. So, I mean, everything in that building, I feel like we're doing, in the right way, with each other. So, I mean, we're just going to continue to keep getting better from here.
And have like leaders emerged within the team, like among the players, or is it still just kind of like, everyone's in this together?
I would say there's definitely leaders, especially, with Buck and Grove being in, my position room, dudes that I look up to. There's definitely leaders around the team too that might not be, the star guys or whatever, but, what the things that they say and what they bring to the table, like, is definitely, a form of leadership.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, Hopping back over to your college career, your progression in college is interrupted by COVID. You were in Washington before the pandemic, UCLA after. How do you think your cohort, those of you who are, had that year off essentially, how has that affected your growth and your development?
Um, Sure. I mean, I guess it definitely gives, guys another year of growth and development. But I mean, during that time, I was going through, my medical, what's it called? I forgot what it's called. Where I was disqualified pretty
Okay.
much. Um, and I really wasn't thinking too much about that COVID year off. I was really trying to think about how to get back into playing. So, I mean, that year was kind of like all fuzzy for me, I'd say.
Got it. Yeah. Did you feel like your career was in doubt at any point? I mean, not like your career as a human being, but like your football career.
Well, I mean, shoot, when the doctors told me like I was, medically retired and, that I probably wouldn't be able to play football again, I would say that was doubt, but I never doubted, me being able to come back, and play football again.
Yeah, makes sense. And were you glad to get out of college before conference realignment, and especially in a school that left the Pac-12 as soon as you're gone?
I mean, the only thing that I'm happy that I'm missing is like the flights. I wouldn't,
Yeah,
those was it UCLA just had to fly all the way to New Jersey. I probably would not have enjoyed that.
yeah. It takes a lot. Um, yeah, and is all the travel been a lot for you in the NFL?
Oh no, not at all. We play teams that are like max hour and 30 minutes away.
Okay, nice.
So like they've all been pretty short
Yeah.
trips.
Um, and I see you're working with Campbell's this season. Tell me about the work you're doing there.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, we're at Gleaners right now. They gave me a tour of the facility and then just learning about, how they, distribute food around, the state of Indiana and then as well as around the country. I got to learn about how they have like this little relief package where, they're sending out to people in Florida that, need stuff that they can't get and they don't have. So, being able to be here with Chunky Sack's Hunger definitely means a lot.
Yeah, very cool. Just a few rapid fire questions before I let you go. What's your favorite part about playing in Indy?
Favorite part about playing in Indy? Um, I say the fans. The fans have been, dope.
hmm
Being able to see them after the games too, and especially when we win, and how happy they are. And I mean, they're rocking with us even when we lose too. So I feel like that's the dopest part.
The new rules for the NFL aren't new to you in that like this is your first year, but things might have been different in college. How have you been, working with like the new kickoff and things like the hip drop tackle ban?
Sure. I mean, I don't know. I feel like they've only called one hip drop out of the
hmm
whole season. I feel like so far, and then the whole kickoff. I don't really play that, but I mean, I feel like there's less, returns being played. So I mean, I feel like that's the that's the only thing that I've been thinking of. But I don't really think too much about them
Yeah.
anyway.
Well, and so what are you most excited about? Just for the balance of the season.
Um, Really, I'm just after every game, I'm really excited to be able to have another game to go and play and have another opportunity because that's the one thing about college is you only have what 13 or 12 games guaranteed, and then here you have a bunch more opportunities to go out there and make plays. So I feel like that's what gets me excited.
All right. Well, good luck on the rest of the year. Laiatu Latu. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Owen.
Time now for Front Office Sports Tomorrow, where we look ahead to what's coming in the business of sports. The University of Georgia unveiled its new $38.5 million softball training facility. It includes a new indoor turf field, locker room, weight room, nutrition kitchen, hydro recovery pools, player lounge, and a 4-lane batting cage. Football is still the big line item, basketball is second, but schools are leveling up their softball game. That's it for today. Leave us a rating and review wherever you like to tune in or tell a friend about the show. If you're on YouTube, throw us a like and subscribe. Thanks for listening. We will see you tomorrow.